and in our evangelism, not in our institutions. Next question, ladies and gentlemen. Sir.
Well, why is it they're allowed to dissipate graves? And I thought that was a holy place forever.
What graves are you talking about, sir?
Any graves, churchyards.
I know.
They're desecrated to build on.
And every
God of love,
yeah.
they should never be allowed, whatever human or race or whatever you believe in.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have the issue, and it's a question that we have to ask. We have an issue about graves being trampled on and being built over. But the reality is, this is even something that Christians do. So, I can't criticize Muslims for doing it, but I do think, ladies and gentlemen, that perhaps there should be a public debate in this country that says that no graveyard can be built over until 50 years after the latest date of death, so that we know that no living relatives are alive of that person. And that's all I have to say about that. But I do want to say another aspect of Islamization. The Adhan, the Islamic call to prayer in our country, is broadcast from loudspeakers. And if you live in a Muslim area, that is broadcast into your home, ladies and gentlemen. We should protest the amplified broadcast of the call to prayer. Why? Because do you have the right to shout the gospel into the windows of Muslims? No. If I was to stand on a street and started preaching the gospel with a megaphone in a Muslim area, how long would it be before the police came and stopped me?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am not saying that Muslims can't have a call to prayer. Let them. But it must not be amplified by speakers. It must not be electronically amplified. And so here is another area that we can campaign to start reversing Islamization. Here's another one. In the UK today, there are courts, Sharia courts, that are operating according to Islamic law. All of those courts should be shut down. Every citizen in the United Kingdom should be governed under the same laws, not two different sets of laws. And yes, I also believe that we should shut down the Jewish courts as well. It's one legal system for everybody and no separate legal systems. Here's another place where we can campaign. The Labour Party is going to bring in, if it wins the next election, an Islamophobia law that will make possibly speech like mine illegal, ladies and gentlemen. Criticism of Islam will be made illegal, and it will be defined as any speech that is perceived. Did you all hear the subjective nature? Perceived to be a criticism or an attack upon Muslimness. How broad is that? In other words, this will silence criticism of Islam, ladies and gentlemen. And so that is why we must campaign against Labour, and we must defend the removal of any blasphemy laws in the land.
What you spoke at, do you think that people must be used to time in the Christian life?
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, last week I shared a stage with Tommy Robinson. Thank you. I want to state clearly my own witness statement about that protest. I met 3 Ghanaians at that protest, one of whom was a Muslim who became a Christian because of my videos here in the park.
Well done, well done. Good job, brother.
I met his sister and his mother,
Oh, bless.
and they were respected and loved by all. There were Pakistani Christians in that protest. There were Iranian Persians at that protest. There were Jews at that protest. I'm wondering, if that's a racist movement, what race is left to be racist against? Tommy Robinson is not a racist. Tommy Robinson is a classical liberal. He could sit down with Adam Smith, John Locke, the signers of the American Constitution, Montesquieu, Voltaire, and they would all be in agreement. All of those names, by the way, are the philosophical fathers of Europe. Tommy Robinson is just a classical liberal. But I joined that protest for one reason. And that reason is this, is that 2-tier policing, ladies and gentlemen, is a very real thing. And we have experienced it in this corner week after week after week after week after week. We've had Muslims come up to Christians and threaten to stab them, and the police did nothing.
They're cowards.
We've had Muslims come up and punch Christians, and the police have done nothing. We've had Muslims come up to Christians and headbutt them, and the police have done nothing. We've had Muslims come up to Christians and push them, and the police have done nothing. Steal their Qurans, and the police have done nothing. Try to stab them, and the police dropped the investigation. And last week they tried to set a Christian on fire. Ladies and gentlemen,
That's scary. Wow.
every time the police fail to stamp down on the jihadi dogs, the Islamist filth, those vermin, Islamists in this park,
Well done.
they embolden Islamists across the country. They say to Islamists across the country that this country cannot stand up to these jihadi dogs, to these Islamist filth. But we Christians are not afraid. Tommy Robinson protested against 2-tier policing because it exists. If it didn't exist, his protest would not have happened. And we've experienced it here. I was personally, with 2 other brothers, set upon by a mob of 13 Muslims in this park. I went to the police. I said I could identify my attacker and that I wanted to press charges. And how many of you have seen the video where the policeman lets him just walk out of the park? How many of you saw that video? So don't believe the lie that 2-tier policing is not a real thing. It most certainly is. And here's another reason why I was willing to share a stage with Tommy Robinson. I come from the north of England. And when all the liberal elites and all the liberal media who have called Tommy Robinson a racist were completely silent about the rape of working class girls from my community, Tommy Robinson was the only one that raised awareness and forced the country to deal with the situation. Christians, we must learn to march, we must learn to protest, and we must become political activists for the cause of the church. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
My stuff is here.
Bob, you made a statement about different churches. And as long as we have one Jesus Christ, we have no problem with different churches. So, Jesus
Yeah, I know
Christ
we're in public space as well, though.
makes
No, that's
us
good.
get together.
Yes.
I'm sure you did so. No, thanks.
As Christians, our unity, ladies and gentlemen, is not found in any denomination. Our unity is not found in a common language or a common nationality. Our unity as Christians is found in Jesus Christ and the glorification of the Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Say that everyone should be on the march on the 27th of July. That's all I want to say.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Yes.
I'd just like to thank you for a great speech you made at Tommy's get together. Well done.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wanna, ladies and gentlemen, in this park, I wanna hear this chant. Who is the King of the UK?
Jesus Christ!
Christ is King. Who is the King of the UK?
Christ is King!
Who is the King of Europe?
Christ is King!
Who is the King of Arabia?
Christ is King!
Who is the King of the Kaaba?
Christ is King!
Who is the King of Muhammad?
Christ is King!
Who is the King of the Quran?
Christ is King!
Who is the King of Aisha?
Christ is King!
Who is the King